Ladies and gentlemen, it's the No Name Cinema Society, and it's our Sound Off. Our Sound Off is our freeform segment, and it's our 25th Sound Off, which is very exciting. I can't believe this segment has made it this far, and we're just going to talk about all sorts of things. Good evening. My name is Jonathan Betzler. I am one of your hosts for the evening. It is August 15th, 2017. Welcome to the 25th Sound Off, our freeform segment. I am super exhausted. I actually worked today, and there's even talk about canceling the show tonight because what time I was going to get back. I worked a long set day. I was up at 4. It's crazy. So I'm exhausted, and now I'm about to drink beer. I have to be up at 5 tomorrow. It's insane. Some people that will get some sleep tonight are my co-host tonight. So let me introduce them to you. First, Drunk Davey, Dave Joseph.
No, I'm not getting any sleep.
Hey,
Not happening.
you're not going to get any sleep tonight?
Nah.
I'm sorry. Is that in solidarity? Because you want to honor my working schedule?
No, not at all.
Is it because of your trip to the strip club later this evening?
Oh God, I wish. No, that's not it either.
Okay, and my other co-host, of course, is the Money of the J. J Money.
I might be sleeping right now. It's kind of hard to say.
We never are able to tell the difference, quite frankly. So.
Neither. So I'll leave it to the viewers. Let them decide.
I think they've already made that decision. Ladies and gentlemen, today is August 15th, 2017, and I've got some fun facts of things that have happened on this day in history. Something that you guys might be interested in is in 1969, on this day, the Woodstock Music Art Fair opened, which of course would become simply known as Woodstock, which a documentary is made about, and this amazing festival of music and sex in August of 1969. In 1979, Apocalypse Now was released on this day in history, and that's a show that we talked about in episode 18.3, and it also came up the other night, guys, when we talked about Casablanca. It came up in one of the bracket discussions. You guys remember?
Yeah.
It was 5 days ago, so it was hard for me to remember as well. And in 1993, and I meant this tidbit is for our viewers who always love when this particular person is mentioned on the show. In 1993 was the 324th and final victory of Nolan Ryan's career, and that was this day in history in 1993. Davey, are you excited about how excited our viewers are about Nolan Ryan?
Yeah, I am. And I've told you my Nolan Ryan story, right?
No, now's the time. It's a sound off, freeform.
The the game where he fought Robin Ventura and he punched him in the face a million times.
Yeah.
I was at that game.
Nice. And it was a short story too, so that works out perfect. And another thing that's related to a previous episode, and something that may come up tonight, is that today is August 15th is the birthday of one Benjamin Affleck, who directed a movie called Live by Night. That was our movie at episode 38.1, and he's an Oscar-winning filmmaker as well. Ben Affleck turns 45 years old.
Happy birthday, Ben.
All right.
You watched the show, right?
I'm sure Ben and Matt watched the show both. Matt is a little, because I have actually worked with Matt Damon before. True story. Name dropping. Hashtag. But I've not worked with Ben Affleck. But I mean, I don't think we get along because of the Boston thing, because it's a city that is worthless to the nation. So anyway, so with that said, that's our August 15th day in history. So we're going to segue right on to our schedule. This is our 41st group of episodes, and it started back on August 3rd, where we talked about Charlize Theron again in the movie Atomic Blonde. We talked about that on Thursday, August 3rd. Then on Sunday, August 6th, we talked about the Indie Spotlight Sound of My Voice. August 10th, 5 days ago, as I mentioned, we talked about Casablanca, and right now, it is the 25th Sound Off and the end of this group of shows. So guys, how do you feel about the 41st group of shows that we've had so far? Atomic Blonde, Sound of My Voice, Casablanca. What are you guys thinking?
Total hits.
I thought Atomic Blonde went really well.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. You always like the new movies. So guys, the first segment on our evening this evening on the Sound Off is I'm going to report to the audience, because these guys don't care about, change the graphic here behind me, see if this works. There you go. The TCM Classic Film Festival. If you guys were watching the vlog that we had, you know that me and a group of people, including Nick Danger, who's sort of become this offshoot character on the show, along with pop star Shanti Leon and others. We went to the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival. I go every year, bring people, and at one point I was talking to the guys about bringing them out. Jay and Davey were possibly to come out, but it wasn't financially viable, as I recall.
Yeah, this happens. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Davey, I don't know if you would like it as much, but Jay might get something out of it. But he might actually be asleep, as he previously mentioned. So he's not going to comment at this time about whether or not he would be curious about the Turner Classic Movie Festival. They do it every year. This year was April 6th through the 9th, and we did vlogs every day, so you can go back and look at some of the vlogs here. I'm showing you some of the vlogs now. We had a great time. And just to update you guys on what we saw, one of the first things we saw was a Best Picture winner from 1957. It's called The Bridge Over the River Kwai. It's one of the few David Lean films that we've not discussed on the show, because of course we've discussed Brief Encounter in episode, 39.3, and we've discussed about Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia, and his other big one is Bridge Over the River Kwai. And we haven't gotten to that in this show yet. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. Oh, wow. We're like David Lean experts here on this show now. One of the other shows, the next movie we went to see at the Classical Movie Festival was a top 10 film of mine from 1947. It's called Black Narcissus, and one of the more obscure films in my top 10 list. It's from a director called Michael Powell, which I would love to dig into with these guys at some point. Black Narcissus is the most beautiful color cinematography of all time. Wait till Davey sees the color palette on this.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And you will have to, because it might be a movie coming up soon on the show. What? Did I just spoiler? Hashtag spoiler alert. And the other fun thing is, and Davey won't care about this, but Jay Money might, we got to see a nitrate print, and that's pretty rare. I don't know if either of you guys have had that opportunity, but that was particularly special in the Egyptian theater.
That's pretty cool.
Especially
for that movie specifically, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're just saying something to say something, but it is. It's cool.
No, I think that you actually introduced me to that movie, and then I bought the Blu-ray. I mean, it's a great movie.
You've seen Black Narcissus?
Yeah, I think so, if it's a movie I'm thinking of.
About the nymphomaniac psychopathic nuns in Tibet?
Yeah. Did you show it at some point?
I never showed it at a CMS. No, I mean, I brought the guys to it. I mean, I used to show my ex-girlfriend that introduced me to you. Like, I made her watch it, and she loved it. So maybe that's how I got you to watch it. But
I don't think Jen ever, your ex-girlfriend, I'm sorry, ever mentioned anything about it. But
Jen,
cough. I don't know where I found out about them, but yeah, I also happen to really love that movie.
I mean, I'm sure I've mentioned it, on the show before, and I'm sure it's come up in the top 5 somewhere. I don't know which one it would have, but yeah. So anyway, that was one of the films that we went to see, and we don't want to spoil too much because it is actually coming up on the show. And man, am I excited to see what Davey would say about Black Narcissus. I mean, like,
yeah. That should be interesting.
That's going to be some fascinating conversation. The other film that we went to see is very important to the next sound off, but I can't reveal that surprise just yet. But it's called The Palm Beach Story from 1942, and that's going to be a special film for us down the line, but I can't explain why. And that's going to play into a major announcement that happens in the next sound off. It's a Preston Sturges film starring Claudette Colbert and Joel McCrea, the same year that Sullivan's Travels came out, which is probably Preston Sturges' most famous film. But The Palm Beach Story is his lesser-known film for that year, and they had a very special screening of it at the TCM Fest, which was really cool. And the final film that we went to see at the TCM Fest will play into our very next segment, which is our second run. I'm going right from the TCM report to the Society's second run. And it's a second run film because it's from what year, guys?
1990?
He had 2 guesses and he missed it. Jay Money?
It's a second run because it's from the 1966?
There we go. I can always count on Jay Money.
It was one or the other. So.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I should have went first.
Yeah.
It's from 1966, and it's a very obscure 1966 film. It's called, it didn't click. It's called King of Hearts. And it was cool that that they were playing a 66 film, so we all went to see it. It was a decent group. It's one of the more fascinating films. It's a film that none of us watched for the show. It's really a must-see. I saw it in high school, so I had sort of forgotten about it. So I'm going to summarize it for you guys really quickly because I think that's really important. Set during World War I, intelligence reveals there is a bomb in a small French country town. The townspeople evacuate, and an unlucky Scottish officer gets to find and defuse the bomb. When running from the Germans, the officer hides in the local asylum and unwittingly unleashes the patients on the now empty town. The patients assume whole new personalities and create a new society amidst their new playground with their new Scottish friend as king. The King of Hearts, of course. Does that summary make sense to you guys? Are you clear on what
basically
what the plot is? It's a French film from Philippe de Broca, who was a man. He was Oscar nominated for a screenplay in 1964 called The Man from Rio. Other films he made included The Man from Acapulco and On Guard. But for J Money, it's important that in spite of being a French film, it stars Alan Bates as the Scottish officer. Alan Bates, who was in Georgie Girl,
okay.
which is one of the films that J Money watched, and he came up heavily, if you remember, in a recent screening at your house there when we watched Gosford Park.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, that's the same guy. Remember?
Yeah. Totally would not have recognized him without you pointing it out, but yeah.
Right. And he's the lead here in King of Hearts.
Yeah.
So Alan Bates comes up again. So before I talk about it, I want to share with you the vlog that I did with my buddy Devin, and Devin shares his thoughts on King of Hearts. Take a look. And we just came from King of Hearts. Did you enjoy King of Hearts? I didn't ask you.
I did enjoy King of Hearts.
Okay, so that's.
I had my issues, but I enjoyed it.
It was one of our 1966 films.
It was very hallucinogenic in a way that was sometimes quite wonderful and sometimes a little bit annoying.
So that's what Devin had to think. Nick Danger was also at the screening, and he was confused and he fell asleep. He was pretty much he was done with this film early on. It's a really, like we were saying in the video, it's like interesting, it's fascinating, it's a delicate balance as far as satirical comedy is concerned. At times it nailed it, other times it goes too far. And the pace sometimes it has shades of Marx Brothers, and not always in a good way, because the fast pace of the comedy, it was almost difficult to connect to those characters. I feel like the film wanted us to love these kooky townspeople, and we just couldn't. Which brings me to the screenplay and some issues I had with the screenplay in the way that it treated mental illness. Because I mean, and again, it's an allegory for this anti-war thing and this idea of, the crazy people somehow seem saner and more civil than the warmongers who are trying to invade the town. That's sort of like the message of the movie. So that's why it's sort of a J Money movie. Davy Joe as a warmonger might not like it as much. So anyway, since J Money's a heart bleeding liberal, he might get more out of it.
As long as everybody dies at the end. I mean, that's really what I.
as long as it's bleak enough for you, and it might be, but. Yeah. The way the screenplay treated mental illness I found sort of troubling, because it didn't really define the ailments of the patients. It kind of was like a catch-all crazy people, and they all sort of adopt these personalities. They get out of the asylum and they decide, I'm going to be a princess, and I'm going to be the town general, and I'm going to be the town singer. You know what I mean? I'm going to be the town whore. It was, sort of contrived to have them all almost be the same kind of crazy or mentally ill. It is lazy in a way, assuming that because it's satirical, it can take liberties. As far as the satire is concerned, I'm not sure it's as hard-hitting as an anti-war film as it gets credit for. The silliness and the antics of the mentally ill patients sort of dilutes the bite of it. I mean, I think it's less of an anti-war film and more of a film that's pro-imagination, if you will, in being the imagination of the townspeople once they are free, so to speak. Depicting soldiers as morons is not hard-hitting enough alone to make it a satire. There needs to be something deeper than that to really, for me, have a bite. I understand the idea here of who's really crazy or who's crazier, the supposedly mentally ill people or anybody that wants to participate in a war, but that seems sort of pedestrian to me, whether or not I agree with the concept or not. As excited as we were about this film and revisiting it, after I'd seen it in high school, I found that it had some amusing moments, but was ultimately unfulfilling. So guys, I imagine you've not seen this film. I don't know if I asked you earlier.
No.
No, definitely not. But it does sound interesting.
I'd watch it.
Okay, so Davey, will you watch it then?
I mean, theoretically, or are you trying to get me to actually commit to watching this thing?
Commit to watching it right now tonight, and if you don't, then we're no longer friends. This is it.
Probably not.
Yeah, don't you have to be friends to begin with?
Wow.
I'm not going to commit to it, but yeah, maybe someday.
Maybe for a future second run?
Sure, sure. Put it on the. There's a list, right?
There's a list floating around, which keeps growing and never gets anything subtracted from it. I wonder how that happens.
Keep putting stuff on.
J Money one day will watch Creed in silence, and then
Yeah, there we go.
Never. I'll never ever do that. Now, just to spite Davy Joe, because he just destroyed our friendship. I mean, he rejected my offer. I got nothing there now.
yeah. Well, again, I mean, it was on thin ice anyway.
Yeah.
So let's move on to before we move on. What are you drinking? I've got a Lagunitas that was absconded for me. Jay Money, what are you drinking?
I'm staying local tonight with Little Brooklyn. Yes. Bet I shall have more.
I need this
Oh,
after a day.
nice. Brown bag in it.
Drunk Davy's got his vodka that he tries to pretend is water.
Yep.
Now it's time for one of your favorite segments. It is the top 5. And tonight it's the top 5 that we can all participate in because it's our annual review of the films that we reviewed on this show. Last year we did our top 5 films that we reviewed in 2015, and this year we're going to do our top 5 films that we reviewed in 2016. Because we each did our top 10 films, very few of them were films that we reviewed on this show. Although I did have one film we reviewed on the show in my top 10, and we'll obviously get to that. We reviewed 16 films last year, and only one of them made our top 10s. It was on my list, so these guys already know what my number 1 will be. I don't know about you guys, but beyond that, it was hard to fill out this list because most of our reviews were kind of bad ones.
Well, that's par for the course for this, isn't it? It feels like
I
we
guess
just
so. Davey, did you have a hard time?
I mean, I did have 5 movies that I did like, so you know, it wasn't terrible.
Okay. I love one of the 5 films. I like 3 others, and my number 5 was just the best of the week. And week, W-E-A-K. On this show, I feel like I need to spell everything, or there's a lot of miscommunication. So in terms of the top 5, let's start with number 5, and Jay Money, you get to go first.
Oh, wow. That's a surprise, actually. My number 5 is a movie that I didn't necessarily expect to like, but I also didn't really know anything about it before going into it. It was Pop Star, starring Andy Samberg and a bunch of other people.
It's the Lonely Island movie.
Yes, it's the Lonely Island movie. You know, I thought that I was going to be more annoyed about the humor in it. I thought I was going to be kind of annoyed by the characterizations, but I ended up thinking that it was actually a relatively smart satire of what I assume you could talk about the music industry is like. I mean, it certainly lived up to like every stereotype that I think of in terms of this music industry. At the end of the day, I kind of connected with the material in a way I didn't expect, and that's why it's ending up on my list.
There you go. Davey, do you want to comment on Pop Star, or do you want to wait?
Oh, wait.
Okay. Oh. Davey Joe, you ready for your number 5?
Oh yeah, my number 5 is Keanu. I thought this movie was pretty funny. I liked it from the beginning with the cat dodging the bullets. I had fun with it. I laughed a lot. So Keanu's my number 5.
My number 5 is also Keanu, actually. And you know what I described earlier as the best of the week, but I liked it. And I went back and watched this episode of and my review is more positive than my memory of it. So that's how it snuck into the top 5. I think it was successful in what it's trying to be, a parody of movie and racial stereotypes, which sometimes worked in harmony and other times were at odds with each other. I feel like the script had surprises and red herrings that kept me interested. I feel like there were some clever jokes, the cat stuff that David Joe referenced. Others didn't land or were over-explained, like if you remember the drug sequence. The performances were kind of weak, but overall only mildly funny, especially compared to another comedy that I might have coming up. Still, just enjoyable enough to make my top 5.
You know, I sort of went back and forth on putting Keanu as my number 5 as well. And ultimately it lost out to Pop Star because I thought Keanu was just a little too uneven. Ultimately, you know, it's just like I think everything you just kind of summed up. There were some really great parts of it, and then there were some parts of it that were kind of cringeworthy and hard to sit through. And that's just why it fell down a peg for me.
We're going to move on to number 4. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Davey, number 4.
Number 4 is The Nice Guys. Again, funny movie. I thought Ryan Gosling put forth a great performance. I just thought the two of them together were a good team. I like the look of the movie, the kind of retro look. I enjoyed it.
I'll give you the look of the movie, and I knew this would be on your top 5. I'm relieved it's as low as 4, though, I have to say.
My number 4 is also The Nice Guys, and I guess I would echo a bunch of things Davey Joe just said. And there's a few criticisms I have, but overall.
Just a few. Any you want to share your criticisms?
Some of the performances were pretty Not great. For me, the movie had a lot of big ideas it was trying to do at the same time, and some of them it managed to be competent about, and some of them just fell flat. It stuck with me throughout the year, and I think as usually the case with these lists, it's the kind of stuff that I remember by the time we do them that actually ends up going to the top of the list, and I remember this one, so it deserves its place.
Fair enough. I'm just looking at, and now that I cut back to my screen, before we move on, I just want to acknowledge my crazy hair. Like, maybe it's just because I'm on set all day, but my hair is like out of control right now. Can we just acknowledge that for a second?
It's like frizzy in the back. It looks all tousled. You look tousled.
Yeah, tussled. Maybe it's a good look. You know, maybe the ladies will dig it. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some write-ins, requests. We'll see how it goes.
You have to check the fan mail after this airs.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. All right, so it's time for my number 4, and my number 4 is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I think, I really enjoyed this movie more than I did most of the Harry Potter films. And it was a very satisfying trip to a world before Harry Potter was born. This seemed more up my alley. More than anything, it was the comic sensibilities of the piece that I thought saved the day. I thought the VFX, though, were terrific, especially in the way they served the story, instead of detracted or distracted from the story, like in Wonder Woman, for example. I feel like they had a terrific production design. I had issues with some of the costume design, but it won the Oscar anyway for costume design, so whatever. 3 out of the 4 leads in the movie were terrific. Eddie Redmayne, Catherine Waterston, Dan Fogler were perfect and fun. I had some issues with Alison Sudol. She didn't seem to be in the same movie to me, but she didn't detract from the overall enjoyment. In spite of the fun, the film also addressed some social issues, like, for example, relationship with nature, and also hate and tolerance as a concept. I enjoyed that it has a little extra depth.
I thought it was a pretty good movie. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It didn't make my list.
I'll move on. And who gets to go first with their number 3? You guys ready for number 3?
Yeah.
Sure.
Who's he going to pick? Who's going to get to go first? I go with Drunk Davey.
Let me look at my list. Number 3, Pop Star.
You're not ready. Not ready.
My number 3 is Pop Star. I thought what made this movie a little better than the 2 that came before it was, I just think it was a little deeper. I thought the satire was elevated the film. It is pretty raunchy in parts. It's always very funny. And I think it's kind of a movie that really was just kind of overlooked, unfortunately, and didn't really get the credit it was due.
Okay. Well, I'm going to jump Jay Money for a second because my number 3 is also Pop Star. So this might be the first time we all have, no, I guess Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf all made our lists for the 66, but it's very rare for a movie to make all 3 of our lists like this. So this is kind of impressive. It's never happened in one of the top 10s. That's for damn sure. So yeah, where Keanu and The Nice Guys didn't have me laughing out loud on a consistent basis, Pop Star did. I feel like it's almost always clever and consistently funny, and to Davey's point, highly underrated. It had a predictable plot, but the fun is how it all comes together. Andy Samberg does his usual terrific job. I actually really enjoy Andy Samberg, at least I have in the last 5 to 10 years. I actually thought Jorma Taccone was a major standout in this film. The key to the film, however, is the soundtrack and the awesome songs, including Impressive Thoughts, which I felt like should have been an Oscar nominee. I think the mockumentary format that the film chose provides the Lonely Island guys a lot of opportunity for sharp satire. And I think of the B scene all the time. I think the B scene alone may be enough to put the film on this list. But the whole movie was great fun and impressive to me in many ways.
No, my number 3 is Rogue One.
Now, hold on. Hold on. I didn't include Rogue One because Davey said he wasn't going to include Rogue One.
I didn't see that. I didn't realize that we decided that.
What's that?
Didn't you say Rogue One was ineligible because it's a Star Wars movie and it didn't count?
No. It's eligible. It's totally eligible. It's fine. Yeah, do it.
Wait a minute.
No, that was
At what point did you...
Is it just for the Star Wars? Force Awakens wasn't eligible last year.
For Force Awakens, I disqualified it for myself because I didn't think I could be.
Rogue One as well in the top 10.
I don't think so.
You did. You I have an email.
For me?
Yeah, and you said I don't care what you guys do, but Rogue One is disqualified for me. I'm too close to it.
Yeah, well, I didn't go with that. So.
Didn't honor that this time.
No.
It would have made my. I actually discounted it. It would have made my top 5.
You want to reshuffle?
Not at this point. So Jay Money, let's talk about Rogue One.
I don't have much to say about it, honestly. I mean, you know, it's the first new. I don't have much to say about most of the movies we've seen here. It's the first new Star Wars that I liked the most consistently. I still have a lot of issues with Rogue One on a lot of different levels, but it did enough things that I found enjoyable for it to end up on the list at the end of the day. So
yeah, if I thought I was allowed to include Rogue One on a list, it would probably have been my number 2.
But there's no way I ever said you couldn't put it on your list.
I felt like it was about solidarity.
Okay.
So you decided on your own that it was about solidarity. Okay.
Yeah, Rogue One would have made my top 10 of the year as well.
A solitary decision on solidarity.
Solidarity.
No, yes, that's possible. A solitary decision on solidarity in the sense that you made this decision and I said, okay, I will join Davey. So he wasn't on an island out there. He wasn't on a lonely island.
Did I really say that about Rogue One?
Yeah.
Also?
It's in the top 10 emails because I specifically asked the question. Because I knew Rogue One would have made my top 10. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to include it.
It would have made your top 10 for the year.
I just said that about 75 seconds ago.
Well, I thought you meant this top whatever. We're 5, I guess we're doing that.
Well, that too.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
You've ruined my life. So there you go.
If I had a nickel.
For every time each of you have ruined my life, yes, I'd be rich. Anyway, all right. So he's got nothing to say about Rogue One. So I don't even know how to deal with that. So J Money, hopefully you have something to say about your number 2 film.
My number 2 and my number 1 are actually pretty much tied, and my deciding factor in terms of placement was just like which one would I be more likely to watch again first. And I'm saying that because I know that you're going to like my number 2 pick, and you're going to completely roll your eyes on my number 1 pick. But my number 2 pick was Florence Foster Jenkins. I could talk about why I liked it, but JB is going to summarize it much better in the next few minutes, I'm sure, at some point. So I'm just going to roll the dice on that one, pass the buck, and say it was just an overall great performance by Meryl Streep. It was a fun script. It had a lot of great comedy, a lot of great timing. It was a fun farce. I enjoyed it.
I thought it might be your number 1. I thought I had a chance for a little solidarity there. But
wow.
It's your number. I thought maybe we might share number 1 because I couldn't think of a film that you, at least on the episode, said that you liked much better. So I'm racking my brain. Oh, I have one. I have one idea, actually. I wish I had written these down. That was something I planned to do, but I was shooting today, so I couldn't write down the things. Like my predictions of what number 1s might be. Now I know what Davies is. But anyway, okay. So Florence Foster Jenkins, potentially I'll talk about that later. I know Davey won't. So Davey, what's your number 2?
Oh, yeah. My number 2 is Hail Caesar. And I know I'm kind of sticking with the comedies here. This is a lot of fun, everything about it. The song and dance stuff, it was just silliness, the look of the film. I guess I'm staying with that same retro theme. I enjoy this movie a lot.
Do the Coen brothers need to be held up to a higher bar?
I think they are held up to a higher bar. I don't know that they need to be. It's not really fair, but...
Look, I didn't dislike Hail Caesar. We should go back and watch the episode. It's episode 24.1. But I mean, it didn't make my list, and I had enough issues with it. But it had some great scenes. Like I had 1 or 2 terrific scenes, and the one that I'm constantly referring to is the one with Ray Fiennes and Alden Ehrenreich when he's giving him line ratings. That was a particularly good scene. I don't remember what I didn't like about it, quite frankly. But I remember I didn't like about it. I didn't love it, and it didn't stick with me in that same way. So I'm not going to even bother letting J Money talk about it. Instead, I'm going to move on to my number 2, and that is Miss Sloane, ladies and gentlemen, which I found to be a terrific legal and political thriller. Complex, detailed screenplay, which is the key to the film, I think. It's well-researched without ever, to me, feeling preachy or didactic. It remained focused on character in spite of the politics. I think it was a terrific, enjoyable conclusion, and it's not the what that happened, it's the how. Performances were outstanding across the board, especially Jessica Chastain and a very underappreciated Alison Pill. Impactful and modern music. We talked about the score a little bit in the episode. It was episode 37.1. Subtle when it needed to be. It mainly bumped on some of the shot choices for me and editing, too many close-ups, awkward angles, and the pace was a little weird, but not enough to dilute the strength of the screenplay. I don't remember you guys disliking this film, but it didn't make your list, it seems, so I guess you didn't love it.
No, you don't know what my number 1 is yet. Could be a shocker.
I have a guess at what it is, but Davy Joe?
Yeah, you know, it's funny that the thing that sticks in my mind about this movie is how much I didn't like Lithgow's performance. But I remember liking it. It was an interesting movie.
Okay, and that's all you got about Miss Sloan.
I enjoyed Miss Sloan, but I guess I split with you. I think it was incredibly didactic and preachy, and that was my problem. It felt really contrived to me. I think Jessica Chastain did a great job. I think there were some great performances, but ultimately I felt like it was just trying too hard to be Sorkin-esque, and it felt kind of contrived again, I would say, because of that.
Okay. All right, so I guess I'm the idiot then for liking Miss Sloan. That's what we've decided.
We all get one.
We all get one idiot?
Yep.
And then that's me. I'm the idiot in this group. Okay.
No,
well, I'll remember that.
That's not what I'm saying.
Number one. It's too late. It's out there. So I think we all know what everybody's number one is going to be at this point. This might be anticlimactic. Davy Joe's going to go with Rogue One.
Very good. Yes, that's right. Rogue One. I feel like if Star Trek II and the Wild Bunch had a baby, it would have been Rogue One. And
how come you
I mean,
didn't say that?
that's pretty high praise. It's a pretty awesome movie. They didn't waste a lot of time with a bunch of character development of people that we're not going to have to see ever again. So it was cool. I liked it. Great war film. Everybody check it out. Everybody's seen it. But
apparently you're having a really good night, Davey. But regardless, yeah, I loved Rogue One. It would have been my number two. So that would have been a film if I thought it was allowed. Would have made all our lists. And poor Keanu would have been knocked off. But I didn't know it was allowed. Seems unfair. Rogue One. Terrific film. Great direction by Gareth Edwards, even though he apparently was fired, for the reshoots. But that's another issue altogether. Rogue One is outstanding. And apparently J Money had some issues with it. If you want to see us hash it out, you can also look at episode 37.1. I think in the previous segment I said Miss Sloan was episode 37.1, but it's actually 36.1. Rogue One 37.1. That's the deal there. Okay. Now that that's cleaned up, J Money will get to do his number one, which I'm guessing now will be Hail Caesar. J Money?
Correct. It is Hail Caesar. I'm not really feeling very verbose tonight. It comes back to what Davey Joe said about it. I think that I just enjoyed certain comedic aspects of it. I enjoyed the retro quality. I enjoyed a Coen Brothers movie that wasn't necessarily their best work by far. But I think for me, a subpar Coen Brothers movie is still going to end up on my list. I just think that their work ends up being more interesting and enjoyable to watch. And as I said to begin with, this was kind of a tie for me and Florence Foster Jenkins. I think Florence Foster Jenkins is probably a better put together movie. I think Hail Caesar is a more interesting movie. And I think between the two of them, I'd probably watch Hail Caesar again first. And that's why it ended up winning out in that situation.
David Joe, do you have a rebuttal on how close Florence Foster Jenkins was to his number one?
Well, Florence Foster Jenkins was the worst movie I saw from 2016. It was relentlessly unfunny, uninteresting, and I pretty much hate everything about it.
And that is a terrific segue, ladies and gentlemen, to my number one film. Ladies and gentlemen, Florence Foster Jenkins, which was also, I think, my number 6 film on my top 10 of that year. And J Money was going to talk about it, but he said that I would need to talk more eloquently about it, so here I am. It's the only movie ever reviewed that has appeared on one of my top 10s. These guys both had Mad Max appear on the year before. Director Stephen Frears is the real hero here, and he is a director of a film that is on my top 10 of all time.
Wow.
But yeah, but not that you have any idea what that film is. But he elevates this to be a next level film in terms of comic precision, tonal balance, focus on story, and consistency of performances, I think, are the key things that make Stephen Frears' work and Florence Foster Jenkins memorable. Streep, of course, is expected to be good, but the real steal of the movie is Simon Helberg. He's one of the best performances of the year. Show an example of not just his performance, but actually the quality of the film itself. I do have a little clip here, since I knew it would be on J Money's list and mine, a little bit from Florence Foster Jenkins. Take a look.
Is ours not a happy world, Cosme? Do we not have fun?
Please, Mr. Bayfield.
You see, we have to help her because without loyalty, there's nothing.
We'll be murdered out there.
You think that I'm not aware of that? For 25 years, I have kept the mockers and scoffers at bay. I'm very well aware of what they might do. But Florence has been my life. I love her, and I think you love her too. Singing at Carnegie Hall is her dream. and I'm going to give it to her. The only question now is whether you will stand by your patron and friend in her hour of need, or whether you will focus on your ambition. Please, Cosmo. Will you play with your friend?
So Simon Helberg, great work there. I think it's there's not a lot available online for recent films like this, not like some of the older films when we show clips that are a little longer, but it gives you a little taste. This movie to me is about the role art plays in our lives. I think it also asks questions about the meaning of success and happiness and how we define those things. I think in spite of the film's lighthearted exterior, the film achieves a deeper meaning and poses fascinating questions while always being entertaining. J Money and I are diametrically opposed to Davy Joe, who just missed the boat on this one.
I will say there was a pretty good dance scene. A couple shots that I remember that were kind of interesting. I remember saying that it was pretty well made.
Movie that you watched all year, let alone the worst. Like we reviewed movies that were like, emphatically, empirically worse.
So I'd say that The Fifth Wave is better than Florence Foster Jenkins. I would say.
Wait a minute, The Fifth Wave, Allegiant, Criminal.
Yes.
The Girl on the Train and Live by Night. I mean, my God.
All of them vastly superior to Florence Foster Jenkins. Look, there is nothing funny about that. I get it. She can't sing. It's not. I got it. That is one mildly
more than just a comedy.
Is not a premise for a film.
One of your least favorite films from 2015 was Ricky and the Flash. So I think you may have something against Meryl Streep. You're just a hater.
Here's the thing. Let me say this. I do regard Meryl Streep as possibly the best actor who ever lived. So I don't know. Just those two movies I hate.
But how do you feel about Mamma Mia?
I have not seen Mamma Mia.
What? I'm shocked to learn that he's not seen Mamma Mia. That was a reference to our last classic. So guys, our sound off is coming to a close here, and so is our overall 41st set of episodes. So how do you guys feel?
We totally killed it. I mean, straight down the center for all of us. I think we were all at the top of our games. Davy Joe especially. He kind of came out this time around. I think. I mean, this series especially. I think we all.
About time.
What's about time? Yeah. We all finally got to know the real Davy Joe, and I'm really glad to be there to witness this.
About time somebody got to know the real Davy Joe.
Somebody.
I'm a complicated man.
He's just going to nod and smile to that. Our next group of shows is going to start later this month in about 2 weeks. We're going to start on Thursday, August 31st, the end of August, and we are going to talk about Gotti, starring John Travolta, and it's a film directed by Kevin Connolly, who you may remember from Entourage, the actor Kevin Connolly, directed film Gotti, which I saw at a sneak preview in April. So, I'm going to be really digging back the memory banks. It's being released the weekend before, and we're going to talk about it on Thursday, August 31st. So, guys, I'm about to wrap up. Any closing thoughts for the audience? Davey?
I think J Money's gonna die. I don't know what's going on.
I'm trying to put myself out of this misery.
One can only hope, but Jay, cross our fingers. J Money, what are your closing thoughts?
What? Sorry.
What are your closing thoughts?
Good job, JB. You made it through.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Anyway, if this is not our last show ever, we will see you again on August 31st. In the meantime, this meeting of the No Name Cinema Society is adjourned.